Shalom and welcome to this episode of Ask Aviel. My name is Aviel. It is my pleasure to share with you what I have discovered in my walk so that we can learn and grow together. Recently, I was asked these questions. Are the unsaved judged by their works? Is God's judgment based on the whole history of the unsaved person? Are the unsaved condemned to judgment because of their rejection of God? Where does the judgment of works fit into the equation of salvation? Jude 24. The Lord is the one who is able to keep us from falling. He makes us established, and we stand blameless before God at the Bema judgment seat. There are two judgment seats, the Great White Throne and the Bema judgment seat. The Great White Throne. Revelation 20:11-15. This is for those who are against God, against believing, against Him and His purposes. All who stand before the Great White Throne are already condemned because their names are not written in the book of life. Why are they standing there for judgment if they are already condemned? They are already guilty before God and condemned. The Greek word for condemned is katakrino. This is for the official sentence to be pronounced, officially from the judgment throne. Those who are unsaved are judged by their works, judgment on the whole history of the unsaved person. People may say, I don't do wrong actions. I always help people. I am kind. I am generous. I behave better than most people. This is the judgment that will define whether their good works can actually earn them sufficient favor enough to be accepted. This judgment will establish whether the scale of good and bad deeds are in balance or not, since people want to be judged by their works. People will be responsible for their own sins. According to 2 Corinthians 5:10 and Romans 14:10, the Bema judgment seat is the title given to the judgment seat of Mashiach. This is the seat of pronouncing that the person standing before it is righteous and for giving rewards. The Bema is a raised platform that has steps, a place where the king views games and gives speeches, a place where the king will pronounce those who belong to him as righteous, a holy nation, a royal priesthood. The people in this judgment do not need to deal with sins because someone has paid the punishment for sins on their behalf. Revelation 20:11-15. Then I saw a great white throne and him who was seated on it. The earth and the heavens fled from his presence, and there was no place for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. Another book was opened, which is the book of life. The dead were judged according to what they had done, as recorded in the books. The sea gave up the dead that were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them, and each person was judged according to what they had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. The lake of fire is the second death. Anyone whose name was not found written in the book of life was thrown into the lake of fire. Judgment on the unsaved is based on works, since people are of the opinion that they do good, they fulfill the requirement, and they are worthy to be counted for God to receive them. They will be judged according to their works to see if they meet God's expectations. If God thinks that their good deeds can balance out the bad deeds, then it is His privilege to make that decision. Isaiah 64:6. But we are all as an unclean thing, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags. This is God's opinion about our good deeds and our righteousness. So, if people think they can make it into God's favor with good works, that is God's privilege and authority to judge them. Jeremiah 2:13. My people have committed 2 sins. They have forsaken me, the spring of living water, and have dug their own cisterns, broken cisterns that cannot hold water. Those who forsake, ignore, think lightly towards God, refuse to acknowledge God, refuse to consider God, and dismiss God are broken cisterns. Can they even hold water? Are their good deeds even considered acceptable? That is for God to decide. Daniel 5 tells us that King Belshazzar made a great feast for his people, drank wine and partied. He used the gold and silver vessels from the temple of God in Jerusalem. He defiled the holy vessels used in the temple of God. Verse 4, they drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze and iron, wood and stone. Verse 5, the fingers of a man appeared and wrote on the wall. Verse 8, now all the king's wise men came, but they could not read the writing or make known to the king its interpretation. Verse 13, then Daniel was brought in before the king. Verse 25, and this is the inscription that was written: Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. Daniel interprets the writing. Daniel 5:26-28. This is the interpretation of each word. Mene, God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Peres, your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. From this passage, I believe that God gives a fair trial to everyone. No one can say that God has judged unfairly or unjustly. Mene, God has numbered. Tekel, you have been weighed in balances and found wanting. God would be unfair if he simply condemned or katakrino anyone without a fair trial. My personal belief is that he will give each person a fair chance to see if their good deeds would really earn them deliverance and salvation. No one can say that God judged them unfairly. God even weighed Belshazzar fairly and found him wanting. God found Belshazzar insufficient, deficient, in lack, and not good enough. Belshazzar failed to fulfill God's righteous requirement. Genesis 18:25, will not the judge of all the earth do what is right? If people want to stand before God in their own merit and righteousness, he will definitely give them a chance to do that. It is possible to enter the kingdom based on someone's own merit and own righteousness. Yeshua himself also said so. Yeshua himself gave the criteria for those who wished to enter the kingdom based on their own merit and their own goodness. Matthew 5:20, for I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the Scribes and Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. Those who wish to enter the kingdom themselves should study to find out what the righteousness of both the Scribes and the Pharisees is. They should then perform extra acts of righteousness above that level. If that person successfully supersedes the level of righteousness that the Scribes and Pharisees have, then Yeshua will definitely accept them into the kingdom. Those who are wise will realize our own inadequacies, our own lack, our own poverty, our own inability, our own incapability, and be humble enough to admit that we cannot save ourselves. For those who want to use their own merit, own talents, and own ability, God will give them the chance to prove themselves to Him. He has all the time in the world to give them a fair trial. The scribes, or Hasopherim. They prepared copies of the Torah on scrolls, on kosher animal skins. They devoted themselves to preserving and copying the scriptures. They served primarily as teachers and copyists. They were experts in the law of Moses. They took on important duties and filled powerful roles, and sometimes served as advisors to the king. They helped to keep their people's faith alive. During the exile, scribes organized small groups to study the law of Moses and the history of their people. They studied diligently to detect scribal errors and also to understand the meaning of the scriptures. They became teachers of the law. A famous scribe was Ezra, who was both a priest and a scribe. Scribes were experts in civic and religious matters. Scribes were interpreters of the law and members of the Sanhedrin, the highest legal and administrative body that governed life in Judah. The services of the scribes were given freely without payment. Scribes were referred to as lawyers, but they were not like our modern-day lawyers. In the Gospels, Yeshua was always having conversations with lawyers. Don't think of them like modern lawyers in a courtroom with a judge. The scriptural definition of the term lawyer in New Testament terms refer to those who were the experts of the law of Moses, teachers of the commandments, those who studied the law to instruct the people how to behave, those who copied many copies of the law for the synagogues, those who teach how the law of Moses could be practically applied in the lives of people. Pharisees or Perushim were spiritual descendants of the Chassidim, those who have experienced and received the grace of God. They believed that the law that God gave to Moses was twofold, consisting of the written law and the oral law. They harmonized the teachings of the Torah and interpreted the law according to its spirit. They were not a political party, but a society of scholars and pietists. Not all Pharisees were bad. There was Nicodemus, who came to Yeshua by night, and Joseph of Arimathea, who faithfully buried Yeshua and probably became unclean, so they could not celebrate the Passover, but had to wait for Pesach Sheni. There were more than 20 sects of Pharisees. When Yeshua rebuked the Pharisees, he did not rebuke all Pharisees, only those who were present in front of him. The Pharisees had a large popular following. They fostered the synagogue or community hall as an institution of religious worship outside and separate from the temple. The synagogue was developed by the Pharisees, and it was given a central place in Jewish religious life. During the weekdays, the synagogue was a school for children, and on Shabbat it was a place for study of the Torah. After the destruction of the Second Temple and the fall of Jerusalem in 70 CE, the synagogue and the schools of the Pharisees continued to function. Messianic belief came out of the sect of the Pharisees. The epistles were the writings of Rav Shaul or Apostle Paul, who was a Pharisee of Pharisees, according to Acts 23:6 and Philippians 3:5. Romans 3:10-12, as it is written, "There is no one righteous, not even one. There is no one who understands. There is no one who seeks God. All have turned away. They have together become worthless. There is no one who does good, not even one." Pharisees and scribes had a very high standard of righteousness. They went through years and years of training, sitting under the discipleship of rabbis such as Rabbi Gamaliel, according to Acts 5:34. Rabbi Gamaliel was the rabbi of Rav Shaul HaShaliach, or Apostle Paul. Rabbi Gamaliel was the son of Simeon ben Hillel and grandson of the great and famous Jewish teacher Rabbi Hillel HaGadol, or Hillel the Great, or his other name, Hillel HaZaken. He was known as Hillel the Elder or Hillel the Wise. It is not easy to even reach the righteousness of a scribe or even a Pharisee. The people found it impossible. Modern-day Christianity did not branch out from Sadducees because they don't believe in angels and the resurrection. Or the Essenes, they believe in mysticism or becoming one with God or the Absolute, experiencing ecstasy or altered states of consciousness. Modern-day Christianity did not branch out from Hellenists, Jews who adopted the Greek customs, language, and culture. It also did not branch out from Herodians, those who wanted King Herod and his descendants to reign. Rav Shaul HaShaliach, or Paul the Emissary, was a Pharisee. We believe in the writings of his epistles. Apostle Paul's letters are considered part of the Brit Chadashah or New Testament. The Pharisees had more than 20 sects during the time of Yeshua. Apostle Paul's sect was one of the strictest sects. He called himself Pharisee of the Pharisees. Acts 23:6, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. Paul was not saying that he was born in a family of Pharisees. Pharisees are not a tribe or a lineage through family. The son of a Pharisee does not mean that Paul's father was a Pharisee. Apostle Paul meant to describe that he was a very good Pharisee. In conclusion, I want to echo the words of Yeshua HaMashiach in the Brit Chadashah, Matthew 5:20, For I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. Salvation by our own works is hard to achieve. It is best that we don't place our confidence in our own righteousness to gain us salvation, or that we can make it into the kingdom on our own. God's standard is too high for us to reach. Imagine an ant wanting to be the friend of a human being. Is it even possible? Our gap with God is way bigger than the gap between an ant and a human being. Even if the ant tried really hard to be a very good and righteous ant, it would still be very difficult for an ant to befriend a human. The ant cannot even grasp the complex thoughts, feelings, and conversations that a human being experiences. Let's accept the work of Mashiach with much gratefulness. He purchased our redemption and granted us salvation, giving us righteousness and favor before the Father. Thank you for joining me. I pray that this message inspires and challenges you. God bless you and your family. Shalom.